Insight, the Stripped Back podcast with Stephen Buckley and Keith Delahan. It's all about the what, the how, and the why people do what they do for a living. Get first-hand knowledge and life stories from the new generation and the seasoned professionals through unfiltered chat and guest interviews, now on Insight, the Stripped Back podcast.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 5. I'm Stephen Buckley.
And I'm Keith Delahan.
And this is Insight, the Stripped Back podcast, sponsored by Robust Lighting.
And on this episode, we've got James Robinson on the special guest interview segment.
But before that, we've got electrical apprentice Jordan Malongi joining us for a chat on the overload segment.
Let's get into it.
The Overload segment. Now on Insight, the Stripped Back podcast.
Jordan, thanks for joining us on the Overload segment of Episode 5 of Season 3. We really appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk to us.
Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have... Me and Stephen were looking at your Instagram post there a couple of weeks ago, and I suppose the award for the nicest solace cubicle to date goes to Jordan, I think, doesn't it, Steve-o?
Yeah. I think I got drawn in on TikTok with it, and I was thinking, Jesus, there's a lot more in that compared to what we were doing when we were in our phase 2. So fair play to you on that one. And I think if you're putting out that type of work onto your TikTok and onto your Instagram, it's only going to promote the trade for other apprentices looking to get in. So fair play to you. And Jordan, I guess we'll go the opposite way with you than we usually do in our guests, and we'll start off with the present. And if you'd like to give our listeners a bit of an insight to who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Jordan Malongi. I'm 20 years of age, from Dublin, Ireland. Second year electrical apprentice. The work that we mainly do, I'd say, would be more commercial, small bit industrial / domestic, but really commercial industrial, really, yeah. Out of phase 2 now, 4 weeks, so yeah.
Yeah, and who are you working for at the moment, Jordan? Give them a little bit of a plug here.
So I work for Alan Mulligan, AMC Electrical, small company. I'm the only apprentice, so it's me, the boss, and another spark, so yes.
Yeah, me and Stephen often talk about working with the smaller companies, being able to learn some valuable insights from your mentors. Is there anyone in particular that you're working hand in hand with over there?
Yes, mainly my boss, really. He's on the tools a lot now, so him, learn a lot from him. So I've been with him now, it'll be 2 years in September, yeah. So learned a lot with him, so it's been great. So yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot of apprentices join us on this podcast over the last 3 seasons, and we get a mix of different experiences, and some of them are on the big sites where they're left to want for the experience when it comes to all different aspects of the trade. So I think, like what you mentioned, Keith, being able to get in hands-on, one-on-one with one mentor and learn the ropes, and there's an incentive there for the company to train you up and make sure that you're coming out to be the best that you can be. It's only going to benefit them and yourself. So I think it's a great thing to be able to think about when you're looking for the right employer, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think you fell in with a good crew there. Well, I say crew, 3 men, but like it's do you feel that you're getting valuable experience from them lads?
Oh yeah, big time, definitely. I think because some of the work that I've been doing by myself as well, I definitely do learn from it. It's not just right, go and do this, go and do that. So I'm actually learning from it as well, and always asking questions. So if I'm not too sure, Alan, how'd you do this? Or Deco, his actual name is Declan, but we all call him Deco.
yeah.
Or Deco, how'd you do this, etc. So I really learned a lot. So it's important. I'm obviously learning more as well, and every single day is a school day, I should say. So.
Talking about learning, we know you're only out of phase 2. How was that experience for you?
It was great. I've learned a lot. Learned a lot in phase 2. But yeah, it's been great experience.
And where did you do your phase 2? Was it Dublin, or did you get to experience other parts of Ireland?
No, unfortunately, got sent down to Cork. So I was in Cork for 6 months, down in MTU to be exact. Yeah, so from January to June. Yeah, so.
Bishopstown.
Bishopstown, exactly.
Yeah. It's actually a good spot there. I've seen it's Kerry Fitzgerald that we've had on the podcast as well. She was down there as well.
Funny enough, actually, I've seen her a few times in the canteen.
Did you? Yeah.
But I've never had the courage to actually go up to her and say, how's it going, etc. So,
Super.
Trailblazing female electrician in Ireland. And I guess, could you give, anybody that's looking to get into the apprenticeship system right now a bit of an insight into, if you were to take up a spot outside of your hometown, how does it work? Like, what way can you make it work for yourself?
Yeah, so when I got called for phase 2, we were given a sheet of numbers for digs. What we call digs is basic accommodation, and in that sheet there was numbers of obviously the people who had digs, etc., and the prices, and if they actually served dinner or not. So that was that really. But it was great really staying in digs. It wasn't too bad, to be honest with you. Well, from my experience anyways.
And what are you talking for, a week's accommodation in the digs down there?
It depends really. Some of them had 130 on the list, some of them had 140, 125. Really depends really, and some of them obviously offered breakfast and dinner, etc. And really
based on location
as well. So it differs really, yeah. So,
and were you close to the college
I
yourself?
was. Yeah? Luckily enough, I got one literally 2 minutes away from the college, so it was really good.
Class, yeah.
Definitely.
There was no late anyway.
No late, no, definitely not.
Yeah, and I guess if it comes into the money end of things, obviously you're getting an apprentice rate in the phase, and you have to give a bit of that then obviously to the man or the lady that's putting you up in their house, and you might come out of the is it weekly or is it bi-weekly that you get paid?
Yeah, every 2 weeks, yes.
Okay, yeah. So you come out with something and then you're having to travel home on the weekends as well then?
So I had to get the train down every single week, Friday afternoon, whatever, and Sunday evening, heading down to Cork. So,
right.
Yeah.
Expensive?
Well, yeah, I think for an adult fare, I think it's about €32 one way up. But now, if you have a student leave card, it's half price, so not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Like that's something that you really have to think about when you're going into into your phases, your FOSS phases or your SOLAS phases. Be aware that you're going to be bi-weekly, because I know a couple of my lads kind of got stung because we pay weekly. So just to ration the money in the first little bit, because you probably have to do a back fortnight
week,
as well.
Yes, we have to do a back week as well. So that was tough.
Yeah, you could end up being nearly a month without wages. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and just in regards to phase 2, I know you touched on it there at the start, but what would be your favourite part of it? Would it have been the academic learning, or would it have been the actual physical work?
No, I would say definitely practical, I'd say, yeah, more hands-on. Don't get me wrong, the stuff in the classroom was really interesting. You learned a lot, obviously. Some of the topics that we touched on was really interesting, and lucky enough as well, some of the stuff that we learned, we got to actually see it physically in the lab and how it works, etc., which is great. But no, more practical for me, I would say.
Yeah, and just for myself, when you're in SOLAS, what are you talking with instructors? Have you got 2 instructors, or you've got one, or is there one for theory and one for practical? Or
yeah, well, normally for phase 2, you normally get sent to an ETB training centre, and you'd have one instructor for all your subjects, etc. Now, I got called for up to an IT, for phase 2, because of the big backlog, to reduce the backlog. So I had 2 lecturers for science, one in the workshop, and one for electrical craft practice. And then we had one for obviously teamwork and communication. So we had to do teamwork and communication for the whole 20 weeks, whereas normally the ETBs, they do the first 2 weeks online, and that's it.
Right.
So yeah.
There you go, a bit of insight for you there.
Just in regards to the curriculum, is there any look of any of the new technologies that are being used out in the field being brought into the curriculum at the minute? Like these touch on solar at all, or anything got to do with EVs?
We actually touched on a bit of solar, but it's not updated to what it is now. See, I think SOLAS last updated in 2013, so it would have been 11 years ago. So it's not really up to date as it would be now. So that's it. It was a really small bit of solar, but not major.
You would hope, like with the new generation coming through, that they have something coming in down the line that's gonna, give the new apprentices coming through a bit more experience on that, because yourself, Keith, you would like apprentices going into their college phases to be able to come out with a bit of knowledge.
Yeah, like if you're taking anyone on, you're basically saying, look, they've no solar experience, so you're becoming a lecturer in a sense where you're teaching them how to do it. Now, look, there's not much in it, but still at the same time, it'd be nice to get an apprentice out of phase 2 or whatever, and being able to hit the ground running, like, you know, because as we've always said, the solar trade is becoming a bit saturated now, so any little thing like that could help, you know.
Yeah. And have you any idea of how you've come out the other end of it in regards to results?
Yeah, so I got distinctions in my P1, P2, P3, Team Music and Communications, T1, and I got merit in T2.
Congratulations, well done.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Seeing those results reflecting all the good work and the hard work that you put in the last little while. But can you remember the time when you kind of decided that you want to go down the route of the electrical apprenticeship?
Yeah, so I was 17 at the time, and it was just in the summertime, and I took up a job labouring because I was kind of looking to get into a trade. At the time, I wasn't really sure what trade to get into, but anyways, I was labouring for a man named Liam, top man he was. It was an office fit out up in Summerhill. At the time, there was sparks, force fixing, and one day at break time, etc., we were all sitting down and we were chatting, whatever, and I remember one of the sparks, his name was John, and he was asking me, of course, how old I am and where I'm from, etc., and obviously we started having conversations, and he said to me, he goes, would you not get yourself into a trade, you know, you're young, you shouldn't be labouring really, and I was like, yeah, I know, but and at the time I had a keen interest in carpentry. Funny enough, even though I didn't do carpentry in school, I'd done metalwork. But anyways, as the weeks went by and I seen the work that they'd done, I kind of drawn an interest in what they were doing, etc.
Yeah.
And and I got fond of the work that they were doing. I said, you know what, I might give it a try. So that was that, yeah.
Yeah, and when you made that leap and you got into it, was it an easy transition in? Like, had you had a good experience starting out?
No, not really, I'd say, no. But that happens really. But no, the first lad that worked for was getting paid cash in hand, and the work that we were doing wasn't really up to standard, I should say, and I was just getting sent doing this, doing that, and you know, half the time I didn't know what I was doing, etc., you know. So yeah,
no direction in a sense. And I think, you know, you might see, you know, the cash coming into your hand at the end of the week and think like, this is great, like I'm earning a bit of money, but you know, it doesn't give a good outlook on, you know, how the business is ran. So you couldn't really put your confidence within them, like to make sure that you were being registered, or you know, that you were going to be learning the right thing. So I think to be able to notice that early on and sort of know within yourself that you have to, you know, make a decision to leave or try and find another company, I think it's a great standing to have as a young man, you know.
Yeah, and did you find another company after them, or did you?
I did, yes. So after that I left. I wanted to get registered and obviously start serving me time. So I left him and then I joined another company in February 22, 2nd February to be exact, and it was on a flats up in Cork Street in Dublin 8, and so it started off great. When the second week after I started, the main man came in. He was based out in Wexford now, so he wasn't really on the tools or anything like that.
Yeah.
And started there, and I met the boss, and said he was going to get registered, but after a while, it didn't really happen. So, but yeah.
You end up with the lad you're with now. Yeah. Obviously, you've seen. Obviously, he wasn't going to register you, or he was promising that he was going to register you, and it's a brave decision to kind of get yourself away from that and get yourself into the right place, as you did with the first company as well. Like, it's great and all at a young age to be getting the cash into hand, and you know, it's brilliant. You know, you're in a honeymoon period, but then you really do have to think about your future as well. And I know from talking to you from earlier on, that was your main goal, was to get the apprenticeship on track. I know you had a couple of buddies that were already started their apprenticeship, and they were good kind of inspiration for you to kind of get on the track as well. Yeah,
so my good mate of mine, Adam Malongi, I'll give him a shout out. Now he was serving his time at the time, and I remember he just got called up for phase 2 in Baldoyle, and we're literally the same age, you know, and Yeah, so I wanted to start serving my time, and it was really getting to me because obviously, if you're not registered, you aren't officially serving your time as an apprentice, you know. So, and I was 18 at the time, going 19 in October, and I said, you know what, I need to get registered as soon as possible. So, I took up the brave decision to send the boss a text telling me to get me registered. If not, I'm going to contact the union, etc. And he wanted me sacked, really. He wanted me sacked, and it wasn't for the site manager, Derek, who stood up for me and said to him, listen, Jordan just wants to start serving his time, etc. And, you know, and and then he ended up getting me registered.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned it many times, Keith, on the podcast that nobody's going to look out for your own well-being as good as you can do yourself. So I think being able to, you know, ask and, you know, you push your employer like for that, you know, registration only shows determination in a sense of wanting to learn, like, and better yourself. So I think in the end, obviously, you know, an employer should see that, shouldn't they?
Oh no, 100%. Like, I'd be of the thought, like, if they didn't come looking to be registered, you'd be like, has this lad got any interest at all? Like, and as you said, you were a while with him anyway, so it would have been like expected to, you know, get that registration done. It's quite easy to do it as well. So, and in terms of the lad you were working with, you seem to be getting on like a house on fire with him. Like, you know what I mean? Excuse the bad pun for electrics, but yeah, no, fair play to you for pushing that and getting it sorted for yourself.
Yeah, much appreciated. Yeah, so I'm currently working now with Alan Mulligan. Been 2 years now in September. But no, it's been great. Ever since I worked with him, I've learned a lot, hands-on, practical side of things, and how to wire lights, etc., sockets, and all this other jazz and all that other stuff. So, but no, it's been great.
Yeah, and I guess have you taken the same route as most apprentices, where you're standing on the side of the road in the mornings, getting picked up in the van, and you know you might need the outlook now of maybe getting the old driving licence and stuff sorted out, will you?
Yeah, no, funny enough, actually, I'm actually doing my driving lessons at the minute, so I have my next lesson on Wednesday and Thursday, so that will be the final two, and and then book the driving test, and then get myself a car. So. Yeah,
fair play. It's hard to get on the road now as a young person, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the money that's involved. Like,
but you know, like how important it is, Keith, like to be able to, you know, hand over a set of van keys to an employee like that you're hiring, to know that they can, you know, take that bit of extra responsibility from you.
Oh, that's it. It's an easy transition then. You know, if you're, what would you say, a good third year, you're in the running for a van then, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If the company's expanded and stuff, you're the first name on the sheet there that's going to be put forward for it, like, you know, and that is your progression. Like, you know, even if you aspire to go out on your own, eventually you'll obviously need the driving license to get yourself a little van, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's nearly essential now, isn't it? I like to network with a couple of the local electrical contractors, you know, the lads that all have their own businesses. Like, we ring each other regularly. I was talking to one of the guys during the week, and he's actively recruiting now. He's doing, I think, a 700 house project in Dublin somewhere. So he was just asking me, did I have anyone, you know, applying for jobs? Did I recommend anybody? He had a couple of lads that used to work for me and said, what do you think, will I take them on? And I gave him me 2 pence on them. And one thing he did mention about the driving was he basically has his own policy, and look, it's his own decision, but it's he doesn't employ anyone that doesn't drive, because he's been in too much trouble with it before. So yeah, getting that driving licence is important to some contractors, not all, but a lot of them that does.
Yeah, I think I remember that when I started out, like, I'd be lost. I don't think I've actually would have had the apprenticeship that I have now without the goodness of, you know, other qualified sparkies coming and picking me up, like, you know, for jobs. So I used to get the train to Hout Junction and wait outside Hout Junction and have people pick me up, or, you know, I'd be you know, into the city centre, like, and having people pick me up in the city centre and then off to jobs. And, you know, even though you were dropped back into the city centre where you were picked up and you'd be getting home at all hours, it's a great bit of experience at the start to get your determination for wanting to actually work. But it's a perfect determination to get your driving licence. Believe me, when you're sitting at a train station in the middle of December with a hot cup of tea and a Yorkie in your hand in the freezing cold, like, you won't be quicker applying for a driving licence after that.
Yeah, and Jordan, taking it back to school, how did school life go for you?
School life was grand, I'd say. Yeah, mix of both really. Secondary school was, I'd probably say, first, second, third year. I'd say, messing about really, being the class clown, etc. And stuff like that. But then, don't get me wrong, those times I actually was good in class. I can remember your head used to say to me, Jordan, you can't pick and choose who you're good to in class, etc. Because my parents kind of used to do that. But no, it was all right. It was all right, not too bad.
Yeah, I guess there's a common misconception as well, isn't there, where school is the be all and end all of your future, and yes, for getting some of your academic subjects honed in at that stage, it's good, to be able to sit down, listen and learn. But it's also a thing that's showed up many times on this podcast, that even if your early school days don't go to plan, that if you have the drive to want to succeed, it doesn't stop people from stepping out of school and doing something in their future. And is that something that you found after did you do your leaving cert? Sorry.
No, I didn't. No, I dropped out of school halfway through fifth year.
Right, yeah. So you would have come out then, what year would that have been?
2020, so just a month before COVID.
Right, so crazy time for you then, coming out. Yeah. Definitely. So then how would that have affected you mentally then through COVID?
Oh, I'd say 2020 was definitely a tough year. Definitely was, yeah. Obviously wasn't doing much. Obviously we were locked in at home. Obviously couldn't really do that, and so. But then at the end of the year I said, 2021 I need to get my act together, because I always wanted to do something with myself, definitely. So I said, 2021, and I want to do something with myself. So yeah.
Yeah, we've had a lot of good advocates for, school not being the be all and the end all. Some people are just naturally gifted with their hands, and academically, just haven't got the interest. There's no point in trying to make it happen if it's not going to work out that way, Yeah,
100% key. I think there's a lot of emphasis that is put on the academic results type based system with the leaving cert, and I think Liam Roach that we had on, who jumped out of school on his own accord, because he had a vision in himself to do something that he wanted to do. I think just because you leave school doesn't mean that it's the end of your career or it's the end of your learning, but it's a big challenge to take, leaving school and then coming back and making a success of your life. But what would you consider, Jordan, to be your biggest challenge today, not just in your career but in your life?
My biggest challenge, I definitely would say, was the passing of my dad when I was 7. Obviously as a kid you're young really, so you don't really think of much, but as you get into your teenage years, looking back on it now, I say having a father figure would have definitely shaped me more as a person, and become a better man, etc., and make better decisions. Because I'd say during my teenage years, because I'm only 20 now, I'm still young obviously, was a bit tough, not having that father figure, someone that I can be able to speak to, who can actually give me proper advice, and have that that conversation that you normally would have with your dad, etc. And I remember seeing some of my mates as well, and the relationship that they had with their dad, and I never had that, which is quite tough for me. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And would anyone, throughout the years, would anyone have kind of not stepped into his shoes, but helped you out, in terms of being a shoulder to console you, or to even guide you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it would have been my Irish teacher, who's now a counsellor. So I really had a good relationship with him. A lot of conversations I had with him were meant a lot to me, and it definitely gave me a better outlook on things, because I did really used to look at the negatives a lot, really, and always made sure I look at the positives and made sure I had a good frame of mind, etc., and always pushed me as well. That's one thing about him that he always done, was always pushing me and making sure that he got the best out of me, and anytime I did get in trouble in other classes, etc., he'd always come to me and say, listen, Jordan, I know this, that, etc., this, that, but keep going, so that was the main thing. And then ever since I left school, I've been kept in contact with him. Even when I was in phase 2, he actually wanted me to come down and speak with the current 6 years
cool, yeah.
About the apprenticeship, etc., but It was on a Tuesday, so I had electrical science that day, so I couldn't go down, unfortunately. But
Dedication.
dedication, exactly. No, it had to be done. It had to be done. But no, he's a top man. He's a top man.
Yeah, and I think it's great to, be able to experience somebody like that, that can, put their arm around you and guide you in a sense to say that they can see something in you that's worth working on. And he was obviously able to see something in you that, where was capable enough to put in front of other students, to be able to inspire them. And I think that's a great thing, for somebody to be able to bestow upon you. So fair play to you, Jordan. And look, myself and Keith would just, like to say sorry about your father passing, but shaping you into the man that you are today, has been your own story. And I think, you're only starting it now. And I think, by the end of it, to be able to get even an apprentice under yourself at some stage, getting that experience through that counsellor will be able to, allow you to be able to, bring other people on underneath you to be able to build them up. And I think it's a great thing, isn't it, Keith?
Yeah, and even the shout out to your firm, you know what I mean? It sounds like you're with the right lads as well, because you could be, with the bigger companies and kind of be in the shadows, but it seems like the hands-on working would really benefit someone like you as well.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
He was so driven and determined as well. So, yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so Jordan, in terms of the apprenticeship and getting into an apprenticeship, what advice would you give to anyone looking to get into an apprenticeship and getting a start?
Yeah, first of all, I'd say believe in yourself 100%. Don't focus on the negatives, focus on the positives, I should say. Don't let that beat you. Just because you start off with a bad crew, that doesn't mean that all of them are the same. You'll always find a nice crew that's going to, take you under the wing and make sure you learn the trade, etc. So look at it that way, yeah. And obviously, everything's gone on electric now as well, so there's always work for apprentices, etc.
Yeah, here.
Great advice.
Yeah, and look, Jordan, we ask this to every guest that comes on. It's a hard question for some, it's an easy for other, but it's to add one song to the season 3 Spotify playlist. And we're just wondering, what would your song of choice be?
I'd like to play Cabin Crew, The Spark.
Jeez, that's a popular one at the minute. I've seen a few TikToks of that. Seems to be taking off the kids in Cork.
Yeah, and it's relatable as well. The spark, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
keeps in line with the podcast here as well.
Yeah, you've thought about that one, Jordan, haven't you?
I did.
Love to get that one on. And look, myself and Key, delighted to have you on. It's been a great chat. You're a great inspiration for any apprentice that's looking to get a start in the game right now. And myself and Keith will definitely keep an eye on your career, and don't be a stranger to the podcast.
No, I definitely won't. Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you.
Well done, Jordan. Brilliant. And look, we'd love to have you on again, so we'll keep a track of your career, and we might even get you in after your phase 4 maybe and see how you're getting on.
Yeah. Much appreciated.
100%. And look, we'll play you out now to your song choice. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan.
The guest interview segment, now on Insight, the Stripped Back podcast.
James, thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join myself and Keith on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, guys, for having me on. Really been looking forward to it.
Yeah, brilliant having you on. Delighted to have you on after looking at all those videos for the last 2 weeks. Very impressive.
Yeah, they do encapsulate you a little bit because it's just so different and so niche. And once you start watching it, it's like you watch another one, you watch another one, you watch another one, and before you realise that you've spent like 20 minutes watching them.
Yeah, and you're out in the back garden digging stones out of the ground, trying to chip away at them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great, like, because I could be on Instagram, and I know yourself, Key, we could be looking at the same stuff every day, you know, like people putting sockets on the wall, or putting up
Yeah.
LED lights, like, so to get any different type of trade on there, like, and to be able to open up our minds to what else is going on out there in the world is great, like, so fair play to you, James. And
Yeah.
I guess for anybody who's not entwined with what you do, or hasn't been one of your 50,000 plus followers on Instagram, if you could give them a bit of an insight into what were you like growing up, James, and what was your school life like?
Well, back in school, I was always classed as not academic. You know what I mean? I was never going to get the most GCSEs. I was never going to go on to university to do a degree or anything like that. I was brought up that you need to work, you know what I mean, with a good, strong work ethic. And when it was in the school holidays, when it was 12, 13, 14, I was always labouring for builders, painters, gardening, anything I could do just to get that little bit of money. And it were always in my head that when I left school, I wanted to go straight into work, because I knew I were not going to get them GCSEs to go on to college, to go on to university and go down that route. I kind of knew I was going to end up in the trades, if you knew what I mean.
Yeah, dead on. And like, did you finish out the school term and then go straight into work, or was it an apprenticeship kind of route, or was it just straight into the into the labouring?
It was straight into it, because before I finished my school, I got offered a position in the local stone yard when I finished school. He said, I can't offer you apprenticeship. He said, but I can offer you a full-time job on £3 an hour. So me at 15, 16 thought, I'm going to take that job. You know what I mean? And I'm going to go for it. So I finished my last exam on the Wednesday, and I started still at the age of 15 at the local stone merch where I worked at, and then went from there really. So I got my first wage on the Friday, £117, 3 pence, and I was over the moon. You know what I mean? When you used to get it in a wage packet. So walking up to the shop to get 20 Lambert and Butler back when I smoked, and I was like, really, you know, like, because I bought it myself, and it were like, yeah, it was just like I got the taste for working. And if you, the more I worked, I was still working Saturdays. I was working because I enjoy work. You know what I mean? I really do enjoy working.
Yeah, I think to be able to, you know, get out there and actually, you know, want to work with your hands and, you
Mm.
know, graft, as they say, and learn, you know, like life skills as well, along with
Yeah.
the hard skills that come with work. I think it's great. And you know, just in regards to the labouring end of it, you know, what type of skills, like, were you sort of honing in for yourself in regards to, you know, working with stone before you could even actually, you know, pick up tools and actually start grafting on them?
Well, it was learning the different types of the stone, because when stone is reclaimed stone's bought in the British market, it's bought on a price per ton. So when buildings get demolished, the stone all comes down, and then it all gets loaded into skips and brought into stone merchants, and then it has the stone dressers work through it, and it separates the different values of the material. So it was very important to learn the different values as a labourer, because that way then when you progress on to being a stone dresser, as you're processing that stone, you know which is worth the value, because it's all worked on price, so you get paid for how much you produce when you're a stone dresser. So them key values of learning the aspects of the trade put into you when you're a labourer. So like one of my main roles when I was a labourer was to course and separate and sort stone out. So we'd sort all the facing stone out, all the dry stone walling, and all the backings as well, which is the middle grade type of stone. So we do all that to learn the types of stones.
Yeah, and I know me and you were thinking of this, Stephen, the other day, but I'm sure we're not alone in thinking there might have been a few nasty injuries throughout the the learning of the trade.
Definitely. If you look at my hands, if you ever meet me in person, you'll see they are proper grafter's hands. I've got scars on 1, 2, 3, 4. Just looking at my hands now, I've got scars on at least 5 of my fingers where they've been bust open. I've got I never forget when I dropped a stone on my foot, and I had a pot on for a couple of weeks. I'll never forget when I was a little bit older and I broke the end of my finger, and it's still not straight now. But I knew it was at a time when I was financially struggling, and it was my daughter's birthday, and we were meant to be going to Legoland at Windsor. And I knew if I went to the hospital, I wouldn't be able to work, because they put me on the sick for 2 weeks. So I just dealt with it because they'd have strapped it together and I wouldn't have been able to get a glove on. So that finger's still bent now.
You get those injuries and they sort of stick with you with a hard memory, don't they? And you second guess everything you do for a little while, and then it just goes back to the norm, then, doesn't it? And you go back to doing your old tricks again. So
a little tip I were always told was don't put your finger where you wouldn't put your little soldier. That's what I were always told when I was younger.
Brilliant.
It's a great bit of insight, that. And like, there must be great satisfaction, James, in working on a piece of stone with a few tools during the day, and then being able to see the end product at the end of the job.
Oh, 100%. Like, I'm working on this bespoke build in Sheffield where the client actually got in touch with me through social media when I'd sort of just started out, and he said, I'm going to be building this house in about 2 years' time, and I've already bought the stone, but I want you to come and work it all because I want it making unique, and I want you to come down. So he invited me down for the morning. We talked through the project, we went out and had breakfast, and I'm actually currently working on this project now. And it's like one of my first proper hands-on projects where I'm watching it come to life. And it's like I'm getting such satisfaction going every time I go and seeing it come to life, because normally I'm just bashing the stone out in the merchants, just bashing it out on a pallet, and then I don't tend to get to see it. But now with the social media, I'm getting a lot more inquiries from all around the country, and it's like maybe it's time to take the show on the road. You know what I mean?
Is a niche trade. That's what I took from your videos anyway. So like, you'd see a lot of those nice houses around, and you'd always wonder, where did they get the stone for them houses, or those walls that they put up, maybe outside at the gates. But and you'd wonder, are they able to be bought even, But look, a lot of people would have heard of a stonemason before, and not necessarily a stone dresser. Like, what's the main differences between the two?
Well, the term stone dresser kind of came from back in the day in Yorkshire. They had the Delfston quarries and the quarries of Yorkshire, and they had quarrymen in the quarries. And in each quarry was about 400 to 500 men, because the infrastructure in Yorkshire with the cotton and the woolen, it was massive because we had the canal routes to ship them. So all the mills were all built pretty much close to the canals, and that way then they could also use the power from the rivers to work all the water wheels, to pump all the mills, to keep it all going. So stone was the material that they used. So people in the quarries, I've got a book on it, it's absolutely fascinating, and it's called Quarrying in the Yorkshire Pennines. And if you are looking to get it, I would 100% look and buy it, because it's absolutely amazing, and it talks about all the quarries in Yorkshire, how they started, how they had the runners who used to bring the stone up from the bottom of the quarry all the way up to the top. And so you'd have the stone dresser would go to the blacksmith, pick his tools up, because they didn't have tungsten back then. It was all fire sharpened tools. So he'd get his tools, he'd go down the quarry face, and he'd just literally pick stone out of the face and start dressing it with his hammer and his chisel. And if you look on my Facebook, I've now got pictures of people sending me photos of their forefathers in the quarries of Yorkshire back in the day, and it's really rewarding to see. So it's just like, this trade is so niche to Yorkshire and the history of Yorkshire with all the mills and everything like that. And that's where the term stone dressing came from, because they found the stone in the quarry, dressed it to prepare it for laying, which was laid by stonemasons. But where I'm from, we call stonemasons people who are like banker masons. So they make your heads, sills, coins, or pieces of masonry materials. But the term stonemason varies all over the world. Some people call me a stonemason, but I don't personally refer to myself as a stonemason. because I don't lay the stone, I just dress the stone, hence the term stone dresser.
Great explanation.
Yeah.
I know exactly what the difference is between the both of them.
You were mentioning there, James, about the tools that might have been used originally, but with the stonemasons, and I was just wondering what would be the main tools that you would use to be a successful stone dresser.
Well, my tools that I use are all hand forged by the local blacksmith who lives 10 minutes away, and I went to actually see him tonight on my way home, and it were his great grandfather's business before that, I believe, and I use a 3.5 pound punch walling hammer. And if you see the shape of my hammer, it's very distinctive because it's curved, and that allows you the hammer to flow freely through the air as you strike the tip of the chisel. Rather than when using a lump hammer, it's big and square, and it's actually taking the air with it, where the design of this hammer allows it to cut through the air, taking the weight out of it. Because if you're swinging a 4 pound club hammer, you're going to know about it. But if you're swinging these hammers, which are specifically designed for stone dressing, it's just got so much better rhythm and motion to it. And then we've got the chisels as well, which are also hand forged by the local blacksmith, and they are all tungsten tipped, and they're all higher grade steel. They're not your drop forged ones that you buy from your local builders merchants. These ones are like £150 per chisel. So they are very expensive, but they're worth it.
Most people would just consider their blacksmiths nowadays for going down and getting their keys cut and their shoes sorted out. Like it's crazy to think that that those tools are still being maintained like by local blacksmiths.
Yeah. When Steve, who forges all the tools, if he doesn't have someone coming on from him, then I've only ever used his tools. I've never ever used another brand of tungsten tip tools because he's made them tools specifically for sandstone, and his father and his grandfather before that in Yorkshire, and everybody all used him. Every stone merchant uses him. He's the only person who supplies the tools that I use in England, and he sends them all over the world. And it's just a little blacksmith, two men in a blacksmith's workshop, and it's just amazing. I love going there. It's like going back in time. Like today, I was just walking around looking at stuff on the wall. Like, I'm good friends with him as well. Like looking through the ledger when he first sort of started and how much things cost, and yeah, it were really, really interesting. Such an interesting trade, which, as you say, has changed as well with the times. You know what I mean? Blacksmiths now, you just think of Timson's. Don't you cutting your keys down at the supermarket?
Yeah, it's mad. And like you talk about the tools there, and you're so passionate about the tools. It's
definitely.
I was going to say it's almost like an art form, but it is an art form.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's loads of positives for using the traditional ways rather than the new automatic, saws and consaws and the likes.
Yeah. Well, if you notice in a lot of my content, I try and explain to people why I am doing it by hand and why I don't use a machine. And if I do use a machine, why I am. Because a lot of the comments now, it's like, why are you still doing it that way? You're going to hurt your arm, or you're going to hurt your wrist, or you're going to hurt your back. There's more, how can I put it, safer ways, and there's machines and things like that. But I work remote with being freelance, so I can't carry a big cropper with me on the back. A cropper, if you don't know what a cropper is a hydraulic splitting machine, which has got two big hydraulic rams on, which you'd lift and put the stone on. But I don't have the facilities to drag one of them around. So I am reliant on my own skills. And a lot of the lads who are coming through now, they can't do it the old way because they've been brought up using the machines. So if they were to take that machine away, they wouldn't be able to do it. But for me, if you were to give me that machine, yeah, it'd be okay, but I could still do it without it.
And to me, it sounds like there's more value in getting someone to do it, and it's more bespoke, handmade, than using the machines as well.
Yeah, the stone industry is changing massively. It is massively changing.
Yeah, I think it's the same even with, if you look into apprenticeships in the electrical industry now, and you see the LED lights that are being used now, and everybody wants to be doing EVs and solar, and the actual basic
Yeah.
trade of wiring the houses, and even
Mm.
doing metal work and conduit work. It's disappearing now, and a lot of apprentices aren't getting a look into doing that end of it, because all they're doing is installing EVs every day. So
Mm.
I think it's definitely happening throughout the whole trade.
And even the likes of the tools,
Def-
like instead of using the snips and pliers now, they want to be using automatic wire strippers and all these fancy gizmos. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's what looks cool as well, don't forget, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Instagram ready, as they say. Your career has introduced you to the recycling and reclaiming end of stonework, and I have heard you speak about an encounter that you had before about working with reclaimed slates. I think it might have been on the Fixed Radio show with Danny Madden, and I was wondering if you could just let our listeners know what that experience was like for you.
Well, when I was back labouring and things like that, we used to do a lot of demolition as well. So, well, not necessarily demolition like taking the buildings down, but we'd go and take the slates off because they're very, very valuable, are Yorkshire reclaimed slates. So they all have to be stripped off by hand, but they need to be graded as well. And one of my first ever jobs, I was like 17 still as a labourer, and the boss said, "Oh, come on, we're going to pick these slates up." So I'm like, "Oh, where are we going?" Bury. And Bury from from my house to there's about an hour and a half, and it were like Friday at 2 o'clock. So we jumps in wagon, sets off, and we gets there, and I sees this garden full of slates. They were everywhere, and we're lifting them onto the back of a roll on, roll off, and I thought it was gonna with a flatbed on, and I thought it were gonna drop it off, but it didn't. So we had to like lift them up, and some of them were bigger than me. I were only 15, and I'm not a big lad. I were only 16, 17, sorry, and I'm not a big lad anyway. And some of these slates were twice the size of me, and he's there throwing them up to me, throwing them up to me. I'm like, oh God, I'm absolutely knackered. And I didn't even have a phone at the time. And my mum actually rung boss to say, "Where's our James?" He's like, "Oh yeah, he's all right. He's just in Bury with me." I'm like, "Oh, what time's he coming home?" "Oh, when I've done with him." I think it was like 8:30 when I finished, and he were pulling up, and he's like, "Oh, don't forget, we've got to take them all off in the morning and grade them all." So then we had to go in the morning, take them all off, put them all in your orders of 22s, 24-inch. This is from the bottom to the peg hole, because that's how you relay your Yorkshire slates and things like that. So we had to grade them all into the lines, and it was just like that was a proper eye opener of like how physically hard, not only for me, but think about these lads back in the day doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Straight out of a block, and
I'd
it's
say you were sore for a couple
yeah.
of days afterwards.
Oh yeah, I slept well that night. I definitely did. I slept well that
Yeah,
night. I'll never forget it. It's one of them, one of them moments when you're first starting out, and it's like I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that first day doing slates and flags. Your big York stone flags. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not.
Flags.
Yeah, your big
Yeah, I've heard
Yorkshire
of them,
stone
all right.
flagstones. Yeah, big monsters.
isn't it great that the use of that material is still going till today? People are still able
Yeah,
to use it. That they are able to reclaim a lot of the old material from the ground and actually still use it on buildings.
exactly. Like the value of it's going up and up and up and up now. Like I don't know if you're familiar with the prices and things of reclaimed stone, but one of the main clients I work for, Wilmore Reclamation, he has got a lot of business in Ireland, and he's got one client out there who comes over regular to see him, and he comes over, walks around his yard and says, "I'll have this, 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 and this, and this," and then ships it over to his yard in Ireland and stocks it there. Don't have the material in Ireland like we have over here, but they have the market for it.
It's like
So
Yorkshire gold, is it?
Yorkshire
yeah,
Gold,
well, that's what they used to call it. That's why back in the day they used to send a lot of the flags from Yorkshire down to London, and they always used to say London were paved with gold because it was paved with Yorkshire stone flags because of the colour of them. They're very distinctive, unique nutmeg brown colour. So when it's wet and the sun shines on it, it lights up gold. And they always say London's paved with
lovely.
Yorkshire gold.
And in terms of your labour and the work that you do, how easy or how hard is it to price your work, or what way do you do it?
I normally price it on per square meter for how much stone I produce, because that's the way it's always been done. And I know roughly when I look at a pile of stone how much I will get through in a day. So I normally produce on average between 50 to 20 square meters of stone, which finished product 20 meters would be about 5 tons of finished product. And I normally work through about between 7 to 9 tons of raw material. So
To get that, yeah.
Or I just work on a day rate if I'm doing like a unique job like the one I'm doing at Sheffield. I'm doing that because I couldn't price that on a price.
And is there a difference with the type of stone? Will that reflect in the price, or?
Yeah. If it's the harder stone, then I just put the price up so I still earn the same amount, because it's going to take me longer to produce it and I'm going to produce less. If it's nicer stone, the price doesn't go down though. That stays where it is. You know what I mean? And we have a good day that day. It goes up, it goes up, it goes up, but it never goes down. You know what I mean? Never goes down, it only goes up.
Yeah, so James Keat was talking about the different types of stone there, and I was just wondering, is there different techniques involved in dressing the different types of stone to suit the job that it's going to be used on?
Definitely. Well, like last week I was working reclaimed elf stone, which is quite small and flat or pitched, and it's quite easy to work. So I can knock more stone out. Where this week I've been working what we call reclaimed punch face, which is larger on the face, bigger on the bed, and it's called punch face because the indentations on the face that the quarrymen and stone dressers used to put in back in the day. And then there's also your new stone, which has been freshly cut and cropped, and that's where I dress a face on it. So there is different types of stone. It's hard to explain it without actually having the pieces there to show you the difference. The smaller stuff is more of a bigger swing. The bigger stuff's more of a timed swing to hit it in the right place, and the dressing is a completely different technique because you're squaring a face on it. And then you've got your different types of stuff, like where you're making coin stones and copings, which are the half round circles which go on the tops of the wall, which is very appeasing to the eye to make as well. And it's also nice because you're getting a shape as well.
Yeah, cool. And in terms of social media with yourself, I'm sure it's very important to you. And how do you think it has been in promoting your craft?
To be honest, this week I've had a proper week of sort of reflection, because it's not only 3 years ago since I went self-employed after leaving my old employer after 16 years, but it's also 2 years, I think it's 2 years and it might be a couple of weeks since I actually started social media. And it's gone crazy from just starting off from nothing and just building it up. But it's the people who I've met along the way who's made it so much more important. You know, down at the Installer show, which is a plumbing and heating show, and luckily I was there with CT1, who I work with. And you like instantly meet someone off social media, and you've got like 3, 4, 5, 6 different things in common because you're all going through the same sort of life experiences at the moment. You know what I mean? Because we're all just normal people doing our job that we love, or some people don't. But it's so surreal and it's so strange and it's just crazy. But yeah, so like I say, originally I started out on social media just to get my work out there. Never did I expect it to go the way it's gone. It was literally, I just started posting a few pictures of my work, of finished stones that I'd made. And then it was like, well, how do you make them stones? So I started doing that. And one of my friends, Chris Tomini, who's a stonemason, came into the yard I were working at and did a video talking to his camera. I'm like, what you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm videoing myself for my socials. I'm like, what you on about? He's like, oh, I video myself for Instagram. I'm like, why? He's like, oh, people do that. Okay. So went on my Instagram, which I'd not been on for years, and started looking at all these people, like watching what they're doing, like Danny Madden, proper Yorkshire builder. He was one of the first people I followed, and then I found like some stonemasons on it, like Reed Stonemasonry, who's absolute legend and a great man and very, very, very good at his craft. And I'm like, look at all these people out here, you know what I mean? It's like a new world. So me being me thought, I'm gonna do that. So next day jumps on it, starts talking to the camera because I've always had them sort of people skills that I can talk to strangers, you know what I mean? So it's like I never felt uncomfortable really. And it's just gone from strength to strength to strength really.
And I presume it's generating you a bit of work, and obviously you're creating a network there with like-minded people. Does it reflect in the work you're getting in at the moment?
It does, yeah. Like I say, I actually had an inquiry from Kent, which I've still got to prepare the quote to where he wants me to go down to his place in Kent and prepare a load of Yorkstone flags for his landscapers to lay. And it's like, wow, you know what I mean? I've never been offered work that far away. Last summer, I spent nearly all summer up in Bishop Auckland, which is just south of Newcastle, which is 2 hours away. So my weekends were spent travelling up and down the A1 last year, preparing a house for a guy up there who'd got in touch with me through social media. The job I'm working on at the moment down in Sheffield on a weekend is through social media. And it's just like, this is not for me advertising, saying looking for
Yeah.
work. This is people who'd already seen my work and wanted me to work on their project.
Would you consider yourself a bit of an influencer now?
Well, I'm very fortunate to work with some amazing brands, which I never thought would be possible for a stone dresser because brands had never worked with really people from the stone industry, let alone a stone dresser. So the first brand I started working with was Scan Safety, and then Nicola Walsh from CT1 dropped me a message in my inbox and said, "Hi James, really love your work. We haven't worked together yet. Let's change that because we want to bring CT1 to the stone industry." So I jumped on that opportunity, and what an amazing, welcoming family CT1 are and the whole CTEC crew, and it's just so great to be a part of that. Yesterday I was very lucky to do a photo shoot with Tough Stuff, who I'm also now working with, and I was able to bring my nephew along to model the kids range. And it's just like opportunities like this I never expected to come to me. You know what I mean? Because I'm just somebody who hits stone for a living, who bashes stone. And it's just like I still find it strange, like that imposter syndrome, like when I walk in and people are like, "Are you James, you alright? Oh, you're doing really, really well. I love to see it." And I'm like, I don't see it. I don't see it. You know what I mean? And it's strange, it really is.
Yeah, and you were talking about if you are coming on to the job with you,
Yeah.
and what do you think about, maybe the government or academic departments in the UK maybe putting better initiatives in place at school level in order to promote these type of skills or crafts to students looking to, maybe come out of school and want to work with their hands, and give them a bit of an insight into maybe those type of opportunities that are available to them?
Well, they definitely need to do something because at the moment there's for a stone dresser, there's no funding whatsoever at all. There's no funding for it at all. So you were only given a job as a stone dresser if you didn't do right well at school, unfortunately. You know what I mean? And now there is government funding in place for stonemasons, and there has been for a while. But the colleges that have them in place, they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller because people aren't taking up the places. And now there's only 4 colleges, I believe, in England which teach stonemasonry. That's under 200 kids a year or students a year learning stonemasonry. Think how many people are learning plumbing, electrician, all them other trades, and yet there's under 200 people a year learning stonemasonry, which is the oldest craft in the world.
I think there's a lot more that might be taking it up, looking at your Instagram page anyway. But
Yeah, well, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it, but it all starts with the government as well, unfortunately, doesn't it? That this because people aren't taking up them places, they're taking them places away and allocating them elsewhere. You know what I mean? To other trades.
yeah, there has to be an
But I
incentive
just
to get them in, isn't there?
yeah, I think it'll end up down the privatization route, and I think that's the only. I think that's just how it'll sort of go, because I'd love to take somebody on as an apprentice, but I can't because I've got no funding for it. You know what I mean? And I can't subsidise a full person's wage learning because all my stone's on price. I couldn't earn enough to cover his wage without some help from the government, but I can't get any help.
How important is self-care whilst doing your job in regards to working outside and like in all kinds of weather conditions, the dangers of dust, and I suppose eye injuries and the inhalation of the dust as well?
Yeah, well, like I say, I always wear my safety glasses, and I always wore them before anyway. So I always wear my safety glasses by Scan Safety. I always wear my gloves. Whenever I'm cutting up using my still saw, I always wear my respirator, which is a P3 particular filter with a pre-filter as well, because it's same as if you're a woodworker cutting with MDF. You need to have that FFP3 level of protection, otherwise it doesn't offer the same protection. As for just working stone by hand, it is very difficult to wear a mask because I do it for 8 hours a day, and it wouldn't be practical to do it. I try to protect myself the best way I can. I'm not daft. I've been in the industry a long time, but it's part of it. You are gonna get dust inhalation. There's just no way to avoid it 100%. You know, it's just gonna, unfortunately, you are gonna inhale some dust.
James, how have you been able to managing the work-life balance? And
It's very, how can I put it, uneven sometimes. You know what I mean? It's it's very, very difficult. But back in the winter, I'll be honest with you, I was struggling. I was really, really struggling. Like, I filmed a mental health podcast with Rob from the NYHP, and I was at a point in my life where I've never ever felt like that before. I was proper low, and it's like I were in two minds whether I should have done it, but I did it because I were having a lot of time. My mum was not very well, and so a lot of other things going on. And the weather, as you know, has been atrocious. So I was working outside constantly in the wet, in the rain, grafting because all my work is on price. Still trying to get the videos out, still trying to do my workload, still trying to stay positive and then come home and put a brave face on. You know what I mean? Like, everything's okay. And it were hard. It got on top of me, I'll admit that. But now I've realised what I need to do to put things in place and get that balance. Like, I just get up earlier now, so I edit my content that I need to get out before I go to work. And then when I come home, I jump into family life. And then I have about 40 minutes there where I finish off the editing. Then my phone goes on Do Not Disturb, and I don't pick it up again then till the morning. And if anybody needs me now, they know to ring my wife. If not, then I'll just pick it up next day. Or even if I don't pick it up next day, I'll pick it up day after that. And it's just them are the little things I knew I had to put in place just to get that break away from it, because you know yourself, when your phone vibrates, you feel like you have to look at it. But if you don't hear it vibrate, you don't see it vibrate, then it kind of drifts out of your mind.
Yeah, that's me one pet peeve is the phone going after hours.
Yeah.
Was only talking to Stephen about a difficult customer that I had on Friday evening. So finished up a car charger, never got the app set up, so we are going to do that at a later date. And I was getting phone calls at like 11:30, 12 o'clock. Yeah, saying, why can't we set up the charger, you know? And I was just like, can you not charge your car? And they were like, no, the car is fully charged. The car charger's working. I just really, really, really need this app. And he's ringing me like, so I get where you're coming from. You really do need to just put it on silent or like you said, do not disturb, because sometimes it gets ridiculous.
Because not everybody's working day is different. You know what I mean? Like, my working day starts when I wake up at 20 to 5. You know what I mean? And then it finishes when I go to bed at 9 o'clock, where some people don't get up till 8 and they stay awake till midnight. You know what I mean? So if somebody's going to ring me at 10:30 at night, then I think I've got every right to ring them at 6 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? Because that's my working day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll take a leaf out of your book on that one.
Yeah. So if somebody rings you at 11:30 next time at night, ring them when you wake up. If it's that urgent, they'll answer the phone, won't they?
James, we've reached the end of the interview now, and I think it's probably one of the hardest questions for a lot of the guests that we get on, and it's to add a song to our Spotify playlist. So I give a lot of guests a bit of a head up that this question is coming. I don't know if you've done a bit of a pre-prep for it, but if you'd like to give us your song choice to add to the playlist, that'd be great.
Well, it can only be one song, and it's a song by the Cranberries called Dreams, because it's like when I started this journey of self-employed, it's just gone off on so many different routes. And whenever something pivotal keeps happening along this journey that I'm on, this song keeps cropping up. And like, after I did the Fix Radio podcast, I walked in and had a pint with the producers, and the song was on. When I was nominated for the On the Tools Awards, and unfortunately I didn't win, I got back in the car, and one of the songs that came on was this song. And it's like, this song keeps cropping up so many times along the way. And every time I hear it, I just smile, because it's like, you'll be remembered for what you've kind of done. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I just love the song. It's just such a good song. So my song to go out to is the Cranberries' Dreams.
Yeah, it's a fitting song choice. Brilliant. Probably, I love the Cranberries now. I don't know about you, Stephen.
Yeah, no, I'm delighted with that one. Actually, I'll be loving to add that one to the playlist. And listen, James, look, as I said, really appreciate you coming on. I know you've had a bit of a hectic week, and things are only getting busier for you. And I know myself and Keith are going to be keeping an eye out for the rest of your career, I guess, in a sense, and seeing how high you can go. So, listen,
Thank you very much.
No problem at all. And I'm gonna play it out now to your song choice. Take it easy.
Take it easy. Have a great evening, guys. And once again, thank you very much for the opportunity to come on.
Thanks, James. Brilliant having you.
Right, Keith, that's just about it for Season 3, Episode 5.
Yeah, big thank you to our guests, James and Jordan, for joining us on the episode.
Yeah, and a big shout out to Mighty Facilities Management for allowing us to record in their headquarters in Dublin, Ireland.
And a big thank you to our sponsors, Rovus Lighting, the world's leading LED lighting company.
Yeah, if you liked what you heard, come back next time for more Overload chat and guest interviews. Head over to wherever you get your podcast, give us a like and a follow to be notified when the next episode drops. Take it easy, everyone.
Talk to you on the next one.